Enkrypt.
Jocelyn.
What's up, dude? How's your spirit doing right now?
My spirit's doing great. My spirit is trying to heal, trying to sleep, trying to find that tranquility within amongst all this chaos that literally surrounds my everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a balance. I try to incorporate both into everything I do and try to make sure that I stay present.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how my spirit's going. It's going. It's going.
That's good, dude. Going is better than stagnant.
100%.
Before we dive into this conversation, I want to ask you to share with us what it is that you feel grateful for.
Oh yeah, I wrote it down. You told me to do it. Okay. So I had 3 things I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for being able to open doors for people who look like me, brown, Latinas, come from like a broken home, someone who came from nothing, being able to give that inspiration to people who don't think it will ever be them. And, give them hope that we are one out of hundreds and we exist. I'm also grateful for those who surround me. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. And that goes back to like, tell me who you are, tell me who you kick it with and I'll tell you who you are. And I feel like a lot of my success, I wouldn't say I owe it to them, but they've inspired me and made me realize how significant my role in this life is. And always made sure that anything that they saw that was like, that I touched was something different. They always made sure I acknowledged it and noticed like my strengths and weaknesses. And they're constantly like what keeps me afloat. Even when I feel like I'm losing myself, they remind me who I am. So I wouldn't be anywhere right now if it wasn't for those who I surround myself with. And I feel like a lot of who I am revolves around family and friends and my chosen family who I've chosen to take this like ride with, and that's them. The last what I'm grateful for is God for giving me strength and guidance. If it wasn't for God, I would have been in the wrong path a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like super cheesy and religious. I'm actually not religious at all, but I'm very spiritual. And the person who I call God, I kind of just created him in my head. And it's the person that I'm very attached to in regards to anytime I feel like something's not right, I ask for guidance, and in every types and forms of ways in my life, he showed me that he's there. So thank you. Shout out to God. What's up, God? Me and God, cool as fuck. He showed me a bunch of great paths in life and has guided me when I've been the most lost. So shout out to God,
Yeah, and I can relate to that too, dude. Like I've had like, I don't know if weird is the word, but using the word God growing up just felt like very like religious and like not in alignment with what my spirituality is. So like I'm just now starting to use the word God, but acknowledging that it's like I'm perceiving it, I'm acknowledging it, I'm expressing it in my own unique way. It's not like that, but it's, so I can relate to that.
Correct, 100%. And that's how my, growing up, my mom was Pentecostal, Christian. So I grew up in like Christian churches. And then my dad's Catholic. So I had a catechism, I had a baptism, I did all that. I had a quinceañera, So I was very conflicted with both because they define God differently. And how we should like drive our life. And I felt like I never fit in, being a bisexual woman. I never really fit into any of those 2 categories, so being Catholic or being Christian, because neither of them were accepting of who I was. So I had to just kind of create my own path. But I knew that what I felt at church was real, or the presence was real. So I knew that it was something that I created in my own inside me, that I knew he didn't judge me or didn't think that me being who I was sinful, and then I realized like, oh, I can create my own God. I can talk to him and I know where I stand in life. And if I'm a good human being or not, that's like nobody else's issue but mine. So I feel like I pretty much dictate who I am on my own terms, in my own world, in my own God, in my own and that's how I've been lately, like experiencing life and everything I do, like fuck everybody. All I really care is about who I've created and who God accepts. And if he's cool with it, he'll let me know if he's not cool with it too. I've seen that happen in my life where I'm like, he's like, what the fuck are you doing right here? Like, you don't belong here. What are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
and I know
Yeah.
it's not where I'm supposed to be. And I'm like, but it's cool, God, just chill, just for a little bit, and so it's an interesting, way of seeing shit for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like you ever had a season in your life where you didn't believe in anything at all?
I think when I was younger, um, my mom, like I was saying, my mom's not religious anymore. And that's like, it has a whole story of its own. But she was very involved in church, like extremely involved. My mom's considered like kind of like a spirit guide. Um, she would help people talk to like their loved ones and to God. And she used to be that lady at church who would pass out after prayer and like, so I grew up around that atmosphere, hardcore, where I would see like I've even seen exorcisms. I've seen some crazy stuff at church. And I knew that's why I knew that supernatural was not fake. It was real. I seen it in my mom. My mom constantly battles demons. Like this is like some real shit. She still talks to me about it all the time. And at one point, I was tired of seeing my mom in pain. I feel like she was constantly giving her all for church and for all for other people to be okay. That I stopped wanting to go to church with her. I'm like, I'm tired of seeing you on the floor. I'm tired of having to pick you up from the floor. I'm tired of almost seeing you like you're seizuring. That's weird. I don't really like it. Like something, I don't like to see you in pain. But to her, it was like me being in pain is curing others. Me being here and giving my all is going to help so and so. Like God wants me, this is my path, and she used to get frustrated with me because I didn't want to go anymore. So at one point, I'm like, God, what are you doing to my mom? Like, what the fuck? Why did she like this doesn't feel right anymore? Like, why are you doing that to her? So I lost faith and I didn't at one point I didn't even want to go to church anymore. I thought it was like just too much. It was a very spiritually invasive, emotionally invasive to my family and how it was affecting my mom. My mom has a lot of health issues. So like I knew that her like passing out wasn't normal, that's loss of oxygen. Like I also went to college and you know what I mean? Like it was just a lot of conflicting feelings. So then after a while, I was like, I don't know if it's God who's doing that. And I don't like it anymore. So,
Mm.
so when I was younger, like I even got into metal a lot. I was very confused. I didn't know what, was going on. So I went to the dark side. Like I started listening to metal hardcore and I was very into that. My mom was so confused and I'm like, well, I'm just tired of seeing you. Like, I don't feel like church is somewhere like beautiful and gallant and like inspiring. Like you walk into a Catholic church, you feel kind of closed in. You feel like there's biblical art of people in pain and God bleeding, and it's just not a very like spiritual place where I can walk in and be like, I feel so at ease. No, it creates anxiety at one point, and I always kind of like was conflicted by that too. So I started looking for answers and listening to metal music. And why is there the other side of things? Like, what is this other side? And then knowing about how God used to be the devil was an angel at one point. And I started relating to that. Like, maybe that's my path. Maybe I need to be a devil to turn into an angel. And it was just like this weird, twisted, like narrative, like I created in my own head. And so I did lose faith for a long time, but I feel like constantly I had situations in my life, supernatural shit that happens, that God is always like, hey, and I find myself always like looking for guidance and be like, I'm sorry, like, was that like a test? Like, I know maybe I should have never doubted you, like shit like that. But yeah, my whole spiritual and like religious side of my whole life is very crazy. So I feel like I'm at ease now,
Mm-hmm.
at this age, creating who I want to like, check in with. And me and him have been great even till now. Like I still talk to him and ask him for like, what the fuck do I do? Help me, like give me a sign. And he always gives me a sign and it's right in my face and it hurts. And then I'm just like, wow, this was the whole point, of all this. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's an interesting topic for sure.
I didn't know all of that about you. That's very interesting. I feel like, yeah, like growing up and experiencing that in your mom. And it sounds like your mom was just very focused and felt called to like just be of service to other people. So I'm sure witnessing that, I had never seen that. But I think it's really beautiful when we kind of step away from spirituality and from God and from religion, and then just kind of find our own way back, because then we're developing a more personal relationship that like really fills us up and like makes us feel good and speaks to us in a way that like actually inspires us and motivates us and like relates to us. So I feel like a
100%.
lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And the more I like, people, when I tell them like, no, not that I don't believe in God, but I don't believe in your God, they get offended, or they're like, because I feel like everyone creates their own version of God, and that's why they do the things they do. And I relate that a lot to, like, I started seeing that in, people who are extremely religious or extremist, I would say, are usually people who have lost path or lost sight of what they want in life. So they look for guidance, and that's what God is. The Bible, it's an instructional book. So it makes life easier to know what you're living by every day. Having someone tell you not to do what to do, it's easier to do that than having your own judgment on stuff. So I feel like a lot of people, like even people who come out of jail, people in jail, they get lost and they find guidance. And the easiest, most reliable source there wouldn't be therapy, wouldn't be counseling, it's the Bible. And I've like understood that in life, and so I don't judge even when I see extremists or when they try to put narratives on my head and make me feel self-conscious of who I am. I constantly go back to that. Like, this is obviously a projection. This is obviously you lacking something that you feel powerful by. And now you feel like this is your duty, and like, I get it, so that was my mom for a long time. Now she's chilling. Like, she doesn't even go, she hasn't been to church in like, I think over 8 years now. So
Yeah, so she has her own relationship
Woo!
experience
If you would
with
interview my
that.
mom, dude, my mom's, she's something else. You think I'm crazy? My mom has stories.
It would be really cool to like have like a series of just like having conversations with our moms, right? Like everyone's just moms and just hearing their stories. That would be cool.
Yeah,
But wasn't expecting to touch on that,
me
but I
neither.
welcome it. I welcome it because it's all a part of the journey.
Right.
But what I do want to expand on in this conversation is rooted in this tweet that you tweeted recently. And
Okay.
it says, feel like giving up? Don't. It took me 5 years of sweat, tears, and hella coupons to get by. Now I'm finally savoring the fruits of my labor. So I want this conversation to be about like believing in yourself, like listening to your calling, being passionate,
Okay.
and all of that. So do you feel like, to start this off, do you feel like 2021 was like the year of you reaping the fruits, you like reaping the rewards of all your hard work?
Yes. 2021 is by far the craziest year of my life. One of them. I've had several occasions and flips 360s that, I mean, 180s that I'm like, what the fuck? But 2021 is the most successful financially, emotionally, spiritually. I'm finally, people say that, at your 30s where you hit your peak. I feel like I'm at the stardom of what I can intentionally become. I can finally feel comfortable being myself, not feeling like I have to pretend to be somebody else in order to, get where I'm at. And before, I feel like I used to suppress a lot of like my silliness and like my thugness and me being kind of direct, and I would kind of retract from being that because I didn't feel like people would accept that. And now I feel like I don't really give a fuck who doesn't want to hire me because I cuss or because I wear clothes the way I do, or because I have a crazy upbringing, or because I'm brown and tattooed. And I think I finally reached that point where I don't care. I applied for any jobs. Now I'm comfortable enough to be in front of people who I used to be intimidated by, So I feel like in general, I reached the point where there's no return in a good way. And the only way right now is up. Whereas before it was always shaky. Like one year would be good and then the other would be really bad. For example, COVID was like really bad for me, but it was like so bad that it was the best thing that ever happened to me at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I could definitely blame COVID for my success in a lot of ways. I feel like COVID, what happened was put everybody on like survival mode and super gear. At one point I had no job, so all my gigs got canceled, rescheduled for like 3-4 months straight. Had no work, with absolutely no work, and I felt like I was drowning. I felt really like I'm gonna go back to work. I'm gonna go find a full-time job. But what if I got COVID? It was a fear of COVID, fear of everything. But with that, I was able to sit down and really look at my life entirely and realize like I wasn't happy. I was just on like cruise mode, not cruise mode, but I was just on like, I was like on robot mode where I was just so comfortable doing things that were already easy for me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not the bare minimum, enough time for me to go and do things that I like, which is great, but I was doing it too much that I was comfortable with what I was getting, what I was receiving, what I was offering, what I was being offered. I would just take anything just because I needed the money. It wasn't like even like I was passionate anymore. And I was starting to lose sight of, why I like doing this shit.
Mm.
And I feel like what happened with COVID was like, okay, cool. Now I can't do video. I can't do photos right now. It's impossible. So what else? What else am I good at? What is something that I've been putting in the back burner that I need to address? And that's when I thought about my clothing brand. I'm like, maybe I should really focus on that. And literally every freaking dollar I had left, I just said, fuck it. Like if I go broke, and then I found out about, them saying like, oh, we'll pay your rent for free if you have, whatever. So I took advantage of that. I was like, all right, we won't fucking pay rent for the next 3 months. And I'm gonna put all this money into this clothing brand and let's see what happens. And with that and help of one of my friends, I launched my brand, and that's what took off completely. I created characters that I've never imagined would reach the levels that it has. And I wanted to make sure I stayed authentic and true to who I am 100% with this brand. And then I knew I couldn't be a cop out. I knew being a photographer, everyone's going to expect photos on shirts because anyone can just grab a photo and throw it on a shirt and call it a day and charge and put on a AAA and sell it for $25 easy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want that. I wanted to create a legacy. I wanted to create culture. I wanted to create something that would shake everyone, that wouldn't forget. I'm not just trying to make a quick shirt, and that's what Inscribe came about. Inscribe was dormant for like about 2 years. I would release stuff here and there, but it wasn't really a full-on brand. So I said, okay, I'm gonna launch this, and I started with the Barrio Unido shirts. El Barrio Unido jamás será vencido, which is a play on the legendary quotes back in Argentina used to use it during war. Mexico City still uses it to empower people who are going through like a genocide or whatever, to stay united. But I give it a twist saying barrio, which is pueblo initially. And then with that shirt, it kind of gave a lot of power to people who were going through a lot of shit. We had, the marches and George Floyd, and a lot of people started being at home and realizing how fucked up the government is. And that's what happened, is like people sat at home and thought about their whole fucking life because they had no choice. And that's why people were out, like, what about this and what about that? Like now they started realizing how politics and government is affecting our lifestyle, and around that time, I feel like it helped empower people to stay together. And then after that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna create a cool, like a character that would really make an impact in Chicano culture. And that's when I came up with Cholotron. So then Cholotron is a 1964 Impala that turned into a Transformer. And then with that drop, I wanted to do Brown Love as well, which I did on both characters around the same time, but dropped them different. And Brown Love is a story of Isa and Popo, Popo Patepec, and it's a myth story from Mexico City about a warrior and a princess who fell in love. The emperor wasn't cool with it, but said you could marry her if you go out to war and come back victorious. But knowing that he was going out to war, he knew he was gonna die. So he told his daughter that he died, and she died of grief. So, and then he later on died with her trying to find a burial spot for her, and he died of grief as well. And that's like the romantic story about it. But I turned them into Transformers as well. And that image actually went viral. It did a lot of numbers, and I even got to HBO's The Hype, which is a streetwear competition show. And Cholotron made it to The Hype. Brown Love made it to The Hype. Barrio Unido made it to The Hype. And all my images from the clothing brand and the drops from those months are the set decor for the entire show. So if you're watching the show, any photo that you see like plastered onto the wall, that's mine. Even this one, you can see it. So I got to keep the one of me. That's me.
Yeah.
I put them all over my apartment, and this is the other one. But they're huge sized images. And then that kind of took off, and I was so mind blown by it, seeing my stuff on TV. And after that, like everything just started kind of, it was like an avalanche of shit. You know, I got my first Netflix gig. I got my first commercial this year as well with Estrella Jalisco. So I went with Narcos Mexico, Netflix, and then I did Estrella Jalisco. And that was a commercial I directed. It was the craziest thing I've ever done in my life. I literally sat inside the porta potties and like cried. I was like, no one can see me doing this. And I was not only crying of like stress, I was crying of like, what the fuck am I doing here right now? You know, I was directing 200 people, like, you know, and it was like little me from Highland Park. I couldn't believe it. It was insane. And after that, a lot my work started getting around. And the interesting part was that a lot of it, I felt like it was the right moment for us brown folks to be in the front lines, you know, especially with, as biased as it's gonna sound, I felt like for a long time that it was our time to shine, and we had to take advantage of it because of everything that was going on in the world. People, like a lot of companies started recognizing they didn't have enough brown and Black folks representing them. Yet they were, you know, savoring our culture and like implementing and everything to do. But then white folks were telling those stories, and people were finally, like I said, sitting down at home pissed. Like, what about film? Why isn't there enough brown filmmakers? Why isn't there enough brown representation? Why aren't Black people telling Black stories? Why are white people telling our stories? You know, and I started realizing that that was a great opportunity for me to jump in and just start shopping myself. Because I'm like, I am a brown director. I am from the hood. I am everything that they should be representing right now. I mean, you know, first generation, you know, Mexican American. Actually very college educated. I'm not an idiot. So I was like, this is it right here. Like I am the
You need me.
Yeah, exactly. So I knew that. I knew that people needed me. And like they said, the smartest thing in marketing is like knowing where, you know, the lack of you know, product is and fulfill it. It's easy. It's a simple formula. Find what's the gap and fill it. And if you can fill that gap that people are lacking, or the consumerism world is lacking, then you fulfill it and you win. So I knew already, like, I need to take advantage of this shit ASAP. So I'm not shy at all. I started just DMing a bunch of people. Hey, check it out. Check out my stuff. Check out. I'm here for Black and brown folks. I'm here representing raza. I'm here like representing women. Da 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 da. You need a woman. I'm LGBTQ. I'm Mexican American. You know what I mean? So that's what started happening. People are like, oh, we actually do need a brown person on set today, because or else everyone's gonna be pissed, you know? So then I started jumping into a lot of commercial shoots where I was just BTS, I was just photo, I was just doing little jobs. And then from there, I would get the name of the director. There, I would get the name of the producer. Then I landed my first Facebook gig too, through that, doing that. Like as soon as I would get off set, I'll get the call sheet, email shitload of people like, hey, it was great working with you. Hi, so check out my work. I'm this Chicana, you know? And then they would remember, you know, and then I felt like my name going by Enkrypt, the branding on its own kind of took off as well. People will remember Enkrypt 10 times faster than they were my real name.
Yeah.
100%. So I started finding that very like useful. So after a while, I completely eliminated. I told myself, I'm not introducing myself to anyone by Rocio anymore. So I like literally let Rocio die. I was like, no. So I started getting published, and around at the same time I got published by Apple TV. Shout out to Apple TV with the book called Little America. A bunch of my photographs are on there. Shout out to Emily Berkey. She's the one who got me onto that job. And after that, I started realizing like, okay, cool. I'm getting a buzz. I'm getting in. I'm touching the right markets. Now I just need to go harder. And I went harder on like PRing myself, pitching myself, networking my ass off. I started learning a lot of reading about how to interact with people, how to like socialize, how to like everything. Went in. I was like, how the fuck am I gonna make this shit work? And shout out to one of my friend's dad. He gave me a crazy secret that's been literally, I can blame that secret as part of my success right now. It's not just doing, this is what people don't understand. It's not just the photos. It's just not the videos. It's what happens behind the photos and the videos, and like following up, and how you interact with others on set, and how people see you, and if they're comfortable even working with you. So I learned that there's so much more. Like no one gives a fuck if you're dope. If they don't like you, they're not gonna hire you again. And that's fucking facts. So I knew for a fact, like I'm already a great ass person, so I got that on lock. Like I'm good. Like I'm good with I'm really people, like, you know, I love people. So like I'm like, I know I got that, but now I need to figure out how to go in further. And I'll tell you guys a secret. So if you guys are listening to Jocelyn's podcast, you're about to get in on some fucking crazy secrets. So shout out to Sixto Caceres. He's the one who told me the secret. So homie, every time we go anywhere, he knows, like he ends up leaving with everyone's number. He ends up like knowing the name of the owner. He like is cool with everyone, taking shots. And I'm like, how is this guy so likable? Everyone we take him, like everyone loves him. So I told him, what's your secret? Just messing around one day, like, what the fuck is your secret? Like everyone fucking loves you. He's like, all right, I'm about to tell you my secret. You ready? And I was like, okay, cool. He said, every time you meet somebody, you look at something that they're wearing. And every time they introduce themselves, you repeat their name to them, and then write it down on your notes on your phone. So you'll put like blue hat, so-and-so, Jake, you know, and then at the end of the day, your goal is to at least say their name 3 times while you're around them, you know. And then I started catching up. I'm like, okay, cool. All right. And he's like, and there's a lot to that. Not only that, you're subconsciously thinking you're doing it to network, but then it becomes an organic thing because now they respect you because they're noticed. Now they respect you because you remember their name. And if somebody has a complicated name, make sure you even say it even more times. Or ask, do you go by a nickname? You know what I mean? Or whatever it is. And then I was like, is it that easy? He's like, I swear it's going to change your fucking life. And I started doing it, and legit, like, it was like the craziest thing. And I'm out here getting free French fries. I through, what's up? You know, I asked the waiters for their name. I asked the girl at the front desk who's like checking me into the hotel her name. I asked everyone their name. And then now it's become something kind of second nature that I don't even think about it. I genuinely want to know their name. And it's like, it's become kind of a magnetic thing where I walk by them and they're like, oh, hey, what's up? I'm like, remember me? And they're like, yeah, hey, what's good? And now I'm like their best friend, you know, just because I remember their name. And like the importance of being validated and being acknowledged and seen is so important in business that we forget that. Everybody just wants to be the best and be good at something. But like, hell no, there's a whole other trail that goes behind you. And I've seen people in the industry that I worked with that are like really kind of standoffish, kind of rude and shit like that. And I always wonder, like, you're not gonna make it. In my head, I always say, like, you're not gonna make it. You can be dope all you want, but you're not gonna make it out here with that attitude. Like, there's no way. And I've been right many times. There's a lot of people I started with who are not shooting anymore, who I don't see them working anymore. And it's not because they're not amazing. They're amazing, but it's just they couldn't sustain what comes with everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you often like emphasize like the importance of just like being a good person. And it's so true that like at the end of the day, all of us just want to be acknowledged. We want to feel seen and understood. And so when you intentionally do that, like you are already meeting people there in that like innate instinctual desire that we all have. And it really does contribute to your success. But you have always been to me someone who's been like very personable and like friendly and just someone that you want to be around. So
Thank
I'm
you.
not surprised that, that's like second nature for you. But that is a great, for people who like, you know, want to work on their interpersonal skills. That definitely is a great secret. And that's something that I should probably be more intentional about too, because even though I consider myself to be very personable, I definitely forget people's names.
You need to take it up a notch. That's all it is. It's just taking it like being more like, okay, boom, you know, and I hate when I used to feel like would be around somebody for hours, especially because I'm on sets that I first meet people for the first time ever, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember the awkwardness of being able to be like, and you're like, you know, like, you know, and I remember the feeling of like, I don't know what her name is. Like, you don't even, you feel so uncomfortable asking, and then it just gets weird, and then they get weird with you. Then just being like, hey, Angie, hey, what's up? You know, even if I had
Yeah,
to look
yeah,
at my
yeah.
phone real quick, oh, what's she wearing? Oh, that's Anna. That's Nancy. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like, and it just makes it so much smoother. There's less awkwardness. You get what you want. Now you feel like you have a personal relationship with them, and you could just come up and ask them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I just did it with the security guard. His name is Steve. Steve from the Microsoft Theater, and I seen him previously the week before. I seen him at the YouTube Theater, and he was the main guy of security. This was for Nodal because I shot with Nodal and Heramex,
Mm-hmm.
and he was there at the second show, and I was like, Steve, and he was so fucking happy to see me. He like spinned me, and he's like, I got you. He told all the securities, you don't tell her nothing. She's good. And usually they only give you 3 songs to shoot. I was able to be there the whole night. Like,
Mm.
and then I was like, that's a plug. That didn't even need the main guy of like the venue to even ask.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like you would think. And I was like, oh, that was so cool. Everybody's like, how do you know him? From
Yeah.
the last show. He's like, the last show, you guys look like you've known each other forever. I'm like, exactly. That's the secret. Like, you know,
Yeah.
boom,
Yeah. The details matter.
they
The
do.
details matter.
Hardcore.
You mentioned that this year has been like your most successful, not only just professionally, but also like spiritually and emotionally. What makes you say it's been your most successful emotionally and spiritually as well?
Because I had the worst year of my life the year prior. That's why.
Yeah.
I had like the worst ever. I was very lost. I was very unhappy. I was sad. I lost so much weight because I was so depressed. I was in a really dark place. Um, really, really, really dark place. So to see the transition, and I was like struggling financially. So I'm literally the opposite right now. So that I can compare to is because of last year, and all the broke, like I said, all the coupons. Like I still coupon, by the way, y'all. I don't care how fucking rich I become because I'm not rich yet, but I don't care how rich I become. I will always pull out the Groupons. I will always pull out the coupons. I'll always ask for an employee discount and say, hey, you're my cousin, right? You know, like I will still do all that shit. But I remember feeling like I couldn't afford anything, you know, and the only way I was able to like get by was like literally on people's DMs asking them if they wanted photo shoots. And I used to bug people and like try to figure out any way to make money. Dude, I used to clean houses. Like not even 2 years ago, I was scrubbing toilets, you know, every day. I was working for Tidy, which is like this stupid cleaning service here in LA. And I'm a college graduate, dude, like, well, degree, like I have a computer science major, like, how the fuck am I cleaning toilets, you know? And I knew that I had to go through those struggles in order to feel like this is gonna just be temporary, and not indulge in that and not put myself down. And I feel like a lot of people do that to themselves. That's why I've met people who are like, oh, I have no work. What do you suggest? Like, what is extra income that a freelancer can make? I always tell them, do those stupid what is it called? Those paid, what is it called, the research program, the research companies that you do like questionnaires for, and they, do those, clean houses, and they're like, clean houses, I would never clean a house. And I'm like, okay, well, the mentality of servitude, the mentality of being under somebody, that's all a mental thing. We started triggering ourselves like, I would never do that. That's degrading. That's humiliating. That's like, and to me, that's so American.
Yeah.
It's so fucked up that we see it that way. To me, it was like, I know this shit's temporary. Like, yeah, I got to scrub a bunch of toilets today, but I made like $250. The fuck did you do? Like, and I got tipped, and I got to drink all their water and soda from their fridge, and they fed me. And, one of my good customers, shout out to Keith, I love him. I met him through like an app and shit. And then I ended up being like, really good friends with him. And he would leave me beers on the table and be like, enjoy yourself. And after I would clean his house, we would chill and talk about shit. And like, that was the coolest like feeling of having somebody so close to me that I'm doing something of servitude and them treat me like I'm just this regular person helping them out. And I started seeing just like the difference in it. And people would be shocked, like, how did you get through like being a freelancer, cleaning houses? And I legit did it, and humbly, and I never put myself down. When I would walk in, I would look straight at them in the eyes, make sure that they knew that I wasn't humiliated either. Like, I'm here to do what I'm supposed to do. Thank you. Bye. I never held myself like, this is going to be my life ambition. I can't believe I left my IT job to clean toilets. Like, it wasn't, I didn't pity myself that way. I just knew like I had to grind. This is good money. I do it 4 times a week. I have 3 days to like focus on photography and video, and I make like $200, $250 a day. That's good. Like, to me, it was temporary. And I told myself, until I'm able to sustain myself and be able to replace that income that I was making cleaning, is the only time I'm going to stop cleaning. And shout out to Keith, because he was my last customer. I haven't cleaned a house in 2 years, like, at all, and now I clean my own house, and like, I'm really, really good at it. Like, don't pay me. Like, my house is clean as fuck, but that's the way we need to reprogram our brain, in order to hustle and be on survival mode. And I feel like a lot of people victimize themselves and self-pity, and then they start creating all these stories in their head of how they're not worthy, and they start thinking about, what is Maria gonna say? What is Jose gonna say? Like, who gives a fuck about Maria and Jose? Like, they're gonna forget tomorrow. You're gonna be the chisme of tonight, and then they're gonna forget. We have such short attention spans in this world that people constantly like kill themselves over one thing that they did. Like, we're not all fucking perfect, And the more we dwell in, ¿qué va a decir Maria? The longer that it's gonna stretch out. Maria's not gonna remember tomorrow. Like, why do you think we don't even care about what Kim Kardashian did last week? Because now there's a new tabloid. Yeah. Everybody forgot how much of a bitch she was on Twitter 2 weeks ago. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and the more that we stay stuck in what are they going to think? What are they going to think? Lower the processes of like being able to be successful and see the full picture as it is, So that's another life hack. Like, you put yourself in this prison, and no one, and at the end of the day, no one really cares. Everybody just wants something to gossip about and forget. And like, next, Yeah,
it really is so important to remind yourself, like, if you're in a situation that's not ideal for you, you have to remind yourself that it's temporary and like not attach yourself to it. It's like, I'm just doing this because I need to get this done right now. But I know that this is what I'm working towards. This is going to be my reality. This is just what I need to take care of right now.
correct.
And I think that you're right. Like, a lot of people will, contribute to like their own suffering, because they think that like, they cultivate all this shame and all this guilt for this like thing that it doesn't have to last forever if you really don't want it to, you know. And you're right. Like we do also care so much about, you know, what other people think, but also everyone's got their own thing going on.
They're not
No
worried
one's
about you.
gonna. So what would you say, you know, I feel like a lot of us can relate to the, you know, 2020 having been like a wild year on all aspects of our lives, and we really did have to like sit back and just confront the truths of the world and also the truths of ourselves and our own lives. What are like the biggest lessons that you took away professionally, spiritually, and emotionally?
Spiritually, that I feel like I was so out of touch spiritually with myself. I forgot what I wanted. I forgot what the what the big picture was. Because we can have short-term and long-term goals, but we never really think of the whole picture. Like, okay, what ends up happening is like instant gratification happens once we reach a goal, and then we're like, now what? Then we feel unfulfilled again. But once you have like a set legacy, like a set overall, like those little wins become kind of a contribution to that, like almost like stairs, rather than feeling like, okay, now what? You know, and I feel like a lot of people experience that in life where they feel content and like they feel settled and they feel comfortable and they're too scared to keep rising up, and that's that escalator. So they do a lot, they push it all out, and then they die out. And then they go dormant again. And then they build it, and then they die out again. And that's like a thing that I think I was doing for a long time. Even now, I try to check myself every time I do feel some type of way. Like when I finish a project, I'm very happy, but then I feel the downs right away. Like, okay, what's next? And that was okay. I start self-sabotaging or like, and instead of doing that, I feel like now I'm more open to being able to let go. And not every day is a celebration, and I feel like I was being untouched out of that too. I started celebrating everything too much, too fast. That was where the lows and highs were coming from. That I felt like if I didn't celebrate something, it didn't happen. You know, and I was like, okay, like things could keep going, and I don't need to like literally have a party every time I finish a project, or I have to like go get really drunk every time like something's completed. So I've learned to like pick and choose when I want to feel good, and like not so much feel good, but indulge in other shit that doesn't really have to tie into my success. I need to keep going. Like, cool, that was dope. Yay, we did it. What's next? Oh, I'm gonna feel as good as I did when I did this. And even if it's a smaller project, I'm still gonna feel it's equally as important as I did a Nike shoe, or like not just picking and choosing what I feel successful from.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I would do small things and wouldn't think anything of them. I'll be like, oh, because it's not really gonna get me out there, or it's not gonna get me a lot of views. But now I'm like, I treat everything exactly like how it should be and really be in the moment. And I think about like, oh, is this better? Am I topping myself? No, every time I do a project, even if it's not big, if it's not for freaking Adidas, if it's not I know that I'm like, this is getting me to the next level where I want to be. And
Mm-hmm.
everything has a purpose, and why
Yeah.
we play chess and why we do things have a purpose. We might not know now, but eventually it starts blossoming and you're like, oh, that's what I seeded.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. And I didn't even see it until now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I see what you mean. Like you like going hardcore and like celebrating this like big win over here, and then if you accomplish something else and it doesn't match that thing, then you started create like oscillating these like super high highs, super low lows, and now you're like approaching every accomplishment with the same appreciation, the same gratitude, and like not having such like bipolar responses to your work.
exactly. And then I feel like we tend to do that subconsciously because that's what we've been programmed by. And that's what we expect, even like from fans, like when people post, You expect, like, I already know what posts are gonna do well on my page. I already know. I already know if I post this, it's gonna go crazy. I already know that no one's gonna fuck with this, but I'm still gonna post it. I don't care. Like, that's not I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks at this point. The algorithm could suck it. I don't care. I'm gonna put it out. And I'm gonna like it as much as I'm gonna put out the other stuff that I know is gonna get a lot of likes.
Mm-hmm.
So just continuing, like, being able to detach yourself from it. And then sometimes, like, I find myself too, like feeling some type of way, and then I check myself. And then I'm like, oh, no, that's not real. That's just, you're on someone's mood board. I recently was told that some of our stuff that we worked on got on Calvin Klein's mood board, and I was losing my shit. And I was like, I don't even care that they didn't hit me up, but I'm on Calvin Klein's mood board. You feel me? And like that, I remember that project didn't even get a lot of love on my Instagram, but yet it's on Calvin's mood board.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me?
Yeah.
So then I just realized, like, yeah, people might not be watching, might not be liking, might not be commenting, but someone's sharing, someone's saving, they're keeping you for later. They're going to think about you. They're going to look back at their archive and remember you. Like, and that should be the goal.
Yeah. 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 I love that. I love that. Being more intentional about like really respecting all of your work, regardless of the external response and regardless of, the size of it, like all of it is worthy of your own love and appreciation.
Yeah.
I love that. You having experienced like such a low with 2020 and then like this super successful year this year, I feel like when you do experience a lot of success like that, it's an adjustment. Do you feel like your success has been an adjustment?
No and yes. No, because I've been here before. So prior to me going freelance as a photographer, I worked in IT for 10 years. So I actually made pretty good money. I worked at a pretty big entertainment company, and I worked my way up. I had my own team. So I was pretty financially stable. So I knew what it was to have money. I know how to like use money. I've been here before, and I've also been homeless too when I was younger. So I already know the ups and downs of life. So being here again is like, it's not really a new feeling. Now, if anything, I'm more intentional with my money. Now I'm investing that shit that I never did before. I would just spend it. Now I know the difference between spending and investing. There's a lot of things that I learned from back then that were mistakes, but now I'm able to approach, like not letting the money get to your head, not letting fame get to your head. I have friends who are all rappers, so I learned from them those things too, that you don't let any of that get to your head because we're still human.
Mm.
You lose it all tomorrow, literally, and I've lost it all and I've had it all. So I don't really feel like financially it was an adjustment, but it was more like watching who you surround yourself with. And now people are coming at you with different intentions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been like, I think the only new challenge that, sometimes I do acknowledge when people are just trying to be my friend. And I've talked about this on my Instagram too. Like I have like a 6-month rule with people now. Like I've been living by that for like past 4 years. Anyone that I newly befriend, acquaint, or even date, like I always give myself a 6-month period that I don't verbally express, but it's something that's like very silent, but I sit down and I observe and I look and I see what they post and I see their tweets, and I start kind of, is this someone I want to keep around? Whether I'm working with them currently or acquainting with them currently is still something that's always in the back of my head. Because I've had like instances even recently where people are not who I thought they were. And usually around 6 months is when you start really knowing somebody for real. And I feel like around that time, they already understand who you are as a person and they know how to talk to you, just how we all subconsciously do it. Like you don't talk to me the same way you would talk to your homegirl. You wouldn't talk to me the same way you talk to your partner. We kind of pick and choose how we communicate based on love language and how we understand love language and how we're able to incorporate that into the way we communicate with them. So it's like same thing with everything. You know what I mean? Learning that about yourself, learning that about like how to maneuver life, how to maneuver people who start magnetizing towards you, because success does that. It starts like intriguing people and they want to be on the same team as you because they see you succeeding. So I've also had instances where I realized like people are taking advantage of my network or are just simply being really nice to me because they want something out of me. And that's been a new challenge, whereas before I wasn't the star, I was the one behind the scenes. And now I'm the star now. And I see how people switched up their attitudes, or people who I used to want to work with now want to work with me, and like shit like that, which is completely valid. I had to earn my stripes, and I understand that, and I had to earn it. But then you start seeing who was genuinely there from the start and who actually wished on your downfall. But at the same time, we're smiling right in front of you. So with that being said, that's been my biggest change. Maybe not in lifestyle, because I feel great. I live in a fucking sick ass penthouse in downtown now. Like it's way chiller and doper than when I was working, in IT. But I'm able to embrace it and appreciate it a lot more. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a kid anymore. I'm not stupid. Like, I know what I'm doing with my money. I know who I'm like surrounding myself with, and making sure I watch out for people. Mm-hmm. Because this will attract the right and wrong people, and what I have been witnessing now more is that more people are coming in and out of my life. Mm. I'm hiring new people now. I'm like, I'm a boss now, I'm paying people's bills. So you start kind of like getting that responsibility too. Like now it's not only me now it's my team. Mm-hmm. Now it's not just about how I'm feeling today. It's how is my employee feeling today. Because if they don't feel good, they can't produce good work for me. And I just realized like, it's like, wow, like now I feel more responsible for me, for my business. And now I feel like I have to give more and more and more and more. And I have to just watch how much I give, period. So yeah, that's been my biggest thing now, just recognizing real, understanding intentions, because there's nothing wrong with give and receive either. I've always talked about, relationships being a give or take, but there's nothing wrong with giving. If you don't find like you can get something out of somebody that's going to alter your life, then why are you even friends with them? And that was so there's a thin line. Like, yeah, please ask of me if I love you, let me help you. Mm-hmm. And then there's the same thing, not knowing somebody and them wanting so much from you, and you giving and them sucking you dry and just running with it. Mm-hmm. So it's a thin line. It's a thin line there. And I've always told my friend, like, if you can only give so much, because you'll start feeling like shit giving so much when you don't feel reciprocation. Mm-hmm. And that's where resentment starts happening. That's how people start talking shit around about each other behind their back, but yet are right in front of one another. Mm-hmm. So that's been my biggest, I think, struggle. And at the same time, enlightening moment where I'm like, oh, cool, this is weird. I'm getting different kind of attention now, and I need to notice if it's real or not. Like, you can't be my best friend after 2 weeks. I'm sorry. That's yeah. Red. I'm sure you've experienced that when you meet somebody and they're like, oh my God, girl, you're so great. I want to be your best friend. Oh my God, we should go out. We should go together. And you're like, whoa, I just met you. It's like, chill. Why do you want so much from me? Like, I just met you, like, and that's when I start kind of, and it feels good in those honeymoon stages where people are there and then they leave and it's just a heartbreak. The way I was talking about it with I'm very emotional, I'm a Pisces. Mm-hmm. So every person that comes in and out of my life, I mourn them. Like, it's like a breakup. Like, oh wow, like, I'm not gonna see you again. Or I'm not gonna ever treat you the same way as I used to. Boom. And then that keeps happening. The more I'm in the industry, the more people I work with, the more people I interact with, the more people I meet, the more people I photograph. Like, the cycle of people who are coming in and out of my life are like very frequent. So it's a interesting, like, emotional thing, and I'm just very blessed that I'm able to like analyze shit like this, because if I wasn't, I would be hella confused and guarded. And that's why you see people who are like super to themselves. They're like serious. They don't talk to anybody because they've been hurt. I never take offense to those people though. Like, don't get me wrong, who are like very standoffish. Oh, hey, how you doing? They shake your hand all rough. They kind of observe you. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. You're there, clearly some shit went down. That's why they're like that. And I'm more like, okay, let me let me learn your love language, and I won't be as like I can start seeing, and I don't blame them, like I could be like that if I wanted to as well, but I just don't feel like it would work for me.
Yeah.
I'm too like, I love people.
Yeah.
Everybody starts at 100 with me, and then you fuck it up. Like that's my thing. Everyone's at 100 with me always. And if
Mhm.
they manage to fuck up that percentage, then they just kind of start slowly declining, and then I don't fuck with you anymore. And you won't hear.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because some people have that approach of like, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to come in trusting you.
Yep.
But then, it's on you, depending on how we progress and, the relationship, then I'll see if you can actually uphold that trust. And other people are like, I'm not going to trust you. You have to earn my trust.
Yep.
So it's interesting, like to see how like different people like approach that when it comes to trust. It's like either they trust, they gift you their trust off the bat,
Yep.
or you have to like earn it. And I'm the same as you. Like I'll give someone like, I trust you, like you haven't given me a reason to not trust you.
Right.
But then once you do, then that's going to change, obviously.
Exactly.
There's a few things that I wanted to bring up with what you talked about right now. And one is the 6 month thing. It's
Yeah.
interesting because when I reflect back on like my relationships, like my romantic relationships specifically, I've noticed that it's always like after the 6 months where they switch up, or like when things like change, and I'm like, what is it about 6 months like that people like show their true colors?
6 months. I feel like they learn your strengths and your vulnerabilities in 6 months. And that's what it is. And I think it's enough time to learn love language and to get to know somebody and their triggers. And you start learning like, what they don't like. Then you start kind of projecting because now you know a lot about them. So I feel like that's why it's like a 6 month thing, because the first 3 months are always honeymoon stage, with anybody, not even romantic. Like you meet
Mhm.
somebody and they're like, they're so great, oh my god, I love them. And I'm that person, and I'm like, oh, I love them so much, and I find myself always saying, but I love them, they're so great. And then like 6 months in, I'm like, oh, you know me too well that now you're like kind of fucking with me, and like, and pushing things that hurt, and like doing things that if they don't really are at your convenience anymore, you just toss, and like you just start seeing that. But yeah,
Mhm.
6 months is a good ass number. I think
Mhm.
it's like 8 months now, you're just like, what is this, what the fuck are you doing, do you even want to teeter totter, or like, but 6 months is like solid. Right?
Mhm.
Is this person a good person? You can tell if someone has really bad eating habits by then. You can tell if somebody has bad sleeping habits. So much about that person that I feel like you can use it and weaponize it as you please.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also like only so long that someone can go without being their true self. I feel like when we first meet somebody, we like put this mask of like, because we want to impress the person. We want to like keep that person in our lives. But like when those 6 months come around, it's like all of a sudden it's like the mask disappears and they become their true selves. And
Yeah.
it's because the truth always comes out. So I agree with that. And I find that very interesting because I've made the same observation. So now moving forward, like, I'm like, let's wait till the 6 months and see it.
Let's see how it
Yeah.
And I usually don't voice it unless like they like, I say if I'm dating somebody and they're like, oh yeah, I'm like, oh I know, but I want to, get to know you. And I will be very expressive. Like I do the 6 month thing where I get to know somebody. And then like a lot of people take it offensively, or they'll take it like kind of like, what do you mean? And then once they go through it, then they're like, oh shit, like it makes sense now. And then you start seeing things like, how the fuck can somebody, like when I see like couples move in like a month or two in, that's alarming to me. Or like, or they just met and now they're in a relationship like a month later. To me, those are super red flags, because you genuinely don't know that person. and living with somebody is completely different. Like, you know, and or being in a relationship is completely different. And I feel like most of those relationships that I have heard always end up ending really quick. Because they're like, wait, I didn't know you were like this. Like, what the fuck? Like, I didn't know this person was like grumpy in the mornings. I didn't know this person didn't flush the toilet. I didn't know, you know, like shit like that. That you're just like, what the fuck? That's not what I signed up for, you know?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. So now, like, now I could never ever like see myself jumping into something without really meaning it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's because we're in a society of like instant gratification. You know, we want things so fast. And that doesn't only apply in relationships, but in work, in everything. We want things done so fast, you know, and we fall in love with the idea of things and then we go after them. But great things really do take time. And that's like with relationships, with opportunities, with jobs, with our career, with our spirituality, with our relationship with ourselves. Like everything takes time. The other thing that I wanted to bring up when you were talking about like how you have to be mindful when it comes to relationships too, of like just like how much you're giving of yourself to another person, making sure that they're like not depleting you. Something you were touching on that. I was thinking about your mom and I was like, I feel like that there's like a mirror reflection there of like, you know, your mom always like being of service and giving of herself and giving of herself and like not receiving.
Yeah, and that's what happened to her. I feel like a lot of it attributes to seeing my mom struggle.
Mm-hmm.
She's a single mom, raised both me and my sister. She left my dad through a domestic violent, you know, like situation. I went through therapy like for a lot of years. I was abused by my dad. So I went through a bunch of shit where I knew like I loved my fucking dad when I was a kid. Like I loved him, and to see him destroy my childhood the way he
Mm-hmm.
did,
Mm-hmm.
it was like kind of like what the fuck. I as a kid I used to always say, but I used to love him so much. Why is he mean to me? Like, you know, and it's kind of deep and shit and dark. But like, and I remember always thinking like, am I not loving him enough? Why does he hurt me? You know, like,
Mm-hmm.
and then seeing my mom go through it as well with her relationships growing up. Unfortunately, she's had like a lot of abusive relationships after my dad as well that I seen her go through. And I would just see her give and give and give. And these dudes would just stay at the crib and not do anything and just fucking watch soccer while my mom's busting her ass, you know? And I would see that. And I didn't want to be that ever. Like I never wanted to feel like I wanted to give, give, give. And in a bad way, I kind of got conditioned to doing that with my earlier relationships when I was a kid, when I didn't fully understand the pattern. But I used to do that. I had the need to fix people. You know, I'm not only that, I'm an IT professional. So what I do for a living is fix shit. And
Mm-hmm.
I realized like I used to like broken people. I got, you know, off on fixing people and making their lives better. And I constantly did that with a lot of my relationships where I felt like, here I am again, giving, 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 fixing, fixing, fixing. And I wouldn't get nothing in return.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm more subconscious with that and like seeing my mom go through it and then me experiencing it. And not only that, but noticing that I was doing the same shit my mom was doing was kind of scary.
Mm-hmm.
And that shit lives on. And when people always talk about like your parents' past traumas and what you went through usually repeat within. And I never believed it until like I started going through it. And I was like, oh shit, I'm becoming my mom, even though I said I would never do this, you know. We're just so programmed that way. And yeah, so it's basically that, like learning how much to give, knowing what is going to be given back, or if there is even worth giving so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like that with a lot of my friendships as well. For a long time, I was always the person that people wanted to like. When I was younger, people would call me the preacher. When I was like in high school, like there you go preaching again. Like all my friends used to say that. There you go preach, because I was a straight A student. I was still selling drugs, being crazy, doing drugs out in the streets, but I was still a straight A student. I was always a B student. Always my grades were good. I graduated with honors. Like that's how like good I did in high school. But I knew because it was a prerequisite of life. Like, let me just get this part of life over with, and then I can move on. It wasn't so much like, I hated school, I'm a rebel, oh, I hate my teachers. No, I just knew that I had to get that shit done to move on to the next level, like a fucking game. And I would always preach that to my friends, like, just get it over with. It's not that hard. Like, you're gonna regret this shit for the rest of your life. This is the only opportunity we have. My mom used to always put that in my head, like, this is it. After high school, like, you're on your own. You start dictating who you are. You're an adult. You're like, your whole life in this little circle is about to be end. So I always knew, like, I would be the one encouraging people to do stuff. Like, let's go here. Oh, there you go preaching again. Oh, there you fucking go again. There you fucking go. And I shit you not, those same people are tripping the fuck out on me right now. And who are the ones hitting me up like, I'm so proud of you. I can't believe it. Like, I wish I would have listened to you. Like, I wish this, I wish that. And then I realized, like, a lot of those folks don't even fit in my life anymore. And I tried bringing them around and they just don't fit. So I stopped giving so much because I didn't feel like there was any return anymore. And it was a sad thing to admit for a while because I started noticing that my new friends were like, why do you even kick it with him? That fool be tripping, or that fool's crazy, or that fool doesn't know how to be sober. Why you still hanging out with him? And then I would start thinking like, oh, because I love them. But the truth is, like, it wasn't doing shit for me. It was just kept putting me back into that place I used to be. And then that's when, like, we self-realized, like, that's not our life anymore. And it's okay. And it's okay to say, fuck, that's not who I am anymore. And that doesn't fit me anymore. And I shouldn't be there. You know? So I've gently acknowledged that and been gentle with myself about it and being realistic. You know, so now I pick and choose when I do have extra time, like, is it beneficial? Not only like, am I trying to stay in touch with my friends and family, but like, what are we going to talk about when we hang out? Like, what are we going to do when we are chilling? Even if we're getting faded, you'll laugh. When me and my friends are drunk as fuck, it turns into a business meeting.
I love that.
It's bad. It's bad. Like, so
Let's talk about ideas and dreams and goals. And
yeah,
I love that.
and like, you know, I've done drugs with some of my friends, and even they're like, they say it out loud, like, Chio, how is it that every time I'm getting fucked up with you, you're like, you end up making a half website for me, like half-ass website. Wait, this is your shop. You're gonna start selling shit tomorrow. Like, you know, like, how the fuck did I just end up walking away spending like this much money on a domain? Like, feel me? Or how the fuck did I just buy cryptocurrency right now when you've been talking about crypto for the past fucking hour? Like, and that's the kind of like conversations that I like having. You know, like, I can't see myself sitting there talking about who got shot up in the hood today, who's beefing with who, like, who do we have to run up on, who overdosed, like, who fucking like isn't still in jail, who, like, it literally gives me anxiety hearing all this shit. You know, my cousin right now is in prison for life. You know, he just got sentenced, and then my other cousin just got out of jail. Then my other homie just got killed. Like, this is real shit. Like, one of my other friends committed suicide not too long ago too. Like this is literally news I get every day from them. And every time I hang out with them, I'm just like drained emotionally, where I'm like, fuck, I can't even intake this information anymore and I don't get anything out of it. I'm just sad as fuck all day. And then I feel survivor's guilt. And then I feel like I shouldn't even, like, why me? Like, why am I succeeding? Why are they in jail? We're all in the same room at one point. How the fuck did that happen? You know? So then it just creates this like weird gap where I'm like, it's almost like Shutter Island. Like, should I go back and help them and save them, be Captain Save-A-Ho? And like, you know, which I do. I feel like I do have that strength in me, and I do want to like completely eventually, when I'm rich enough, go back to the hood and give back, but to the youth. But those that were left behind and who are like already completely doing their other things, I can't save you anymore. The thing I could save is the young ones who I could have saved even back then when I thought I was saving. You know, like, that's what my importance is now. Like, so and I would find myself doing that. So every time they would get out of jail, I'll house them. I'll bring them to my house and have them somewhere to sleep. or like, you know, shit like that. And then I just realized like I was getting so drained and I wasn't getting anything out of it. So I've slowly started kind of self-acknowledging like the people who do surround me are defining me and I can't be around that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my life anymore. And it's
Yeah.
okay. I'm still tired. I'm still heading to the death of me. To the death of me. HLP, what's up? Highland Park. I always,
uh,
you know, so it's crazy. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. Outgrowing people is a real thing. And you know, it's important to like really know that we're worthy of mutually beneficial relationships. And I think that that's something that a lot of people are waking up to, is like, you know, I'm worthy of, you know, having relationships, people around me that are able to, you know, be of, you know, service to me the way that I am of service to me, to them, you know, like we're, it's like this equal exchange of like give and take, because then if not, you're creating, you know, out of balance in your life. And I feel like too, when you come from like places and situations, environments where like where you come from, and I can relate to this too, like coming from the border and like just border town life being a whole other world. I feel like also, I mean, I feel like you're someone who's like very loyal, and I feel like there's also that like guilt of like, you know, being loyal to these people, and you know, feeling like you need to stay there, be around them, or you know, because you're loyal to them. But it's like the biggest loyalty you should have is the loyalty to yourself, you
Yeah.
know. And it's like, you know, you gotta do what's best for you. And I'm glad that you brought up the whole survivor's guilt thing too, because that's a very real thing. And that circles back to my question of like how you're adjusting to success, because I feel like that also reflects into that of like, you know, you getting out of the hood and getting out of these situations and no longer being surrounded by these people.
Mm-hmm.
It's an adjustment. And to bring all of this full circle, the last thing that I wanted to bring up is, you know, when I had asked you about adjusting to success, and you telling me that like, I forgot that you did have like a super successful IT job, and you already have touched a lot of money, and you have gone through these highs and lows, and ultimately all of that has contributed to allowing you to like fully receive the success that you have now. You know, like everything really does happen for a reason.
I know it's so wild. Who would have known? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I did lose it all, you know, when I left my IT job, I was so miserable and like, how the fuck? I'm like, nah, I know myself. I'll get back up. Like, I don't care how long it takes. And then that's the truth of acknowledging that it's gonna take a long time. And
Mm-hmm.
my friend Reverie used to always, shout out to Reverie, I love her to death. She would always tell me, it took me 10 years to get here. Like, it took me 10 years of not stopping. And you can tell when people stop. She's like, keep going. Every time I felt like giving up and going back to working in an IT job, they would all constantly remind me, like, you can do it. Don't let go. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And I just kind of held my guns and I said, you know, at first I admit it, I did it for them, you know, to prove to them that I ain't no bitch. I'm gonna show you, fuck you guys, you know, like it was that kind of feeling, like I can handle this. But then after I realized like I was starting to like the grind, I started getting addicted to wanting more. And I like the adrenaline, you know, I like the last minute figuring it out. I like the troubleshooting. I like the falling and making it better the next round. And like I started getting addicted to that, obsessed over creating images in my head and making them come to life. And I feel like I implemented that in my reality, not
Mm-hmm.
just my work, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's where I'm going right now. And I always try to be around my friends and share everything that I know and that I've learned throughout my life and my journey for that same reason, because I feel like I've gone through enough to be able to share shit, even shit that I still struggle with now, because there's so much that's gone unsaid and no one really talks about anymore or feels weak to share because of judgment or self, you know, diminishing, who you think you are, and you're like, when I'm like extremely open, I talk about shit that people don't really talk about. I don't even go on Instagram and say shit like this sometimes because just see the DMs I get. People get upset, but I'm like, whatever. But I still find like you can say a channel where I'm able to do that with my friends and always check them and hold them accountable and being like, hey, I don't think that's a good idea, and what the fuck are you doing, and like doing vice versa, and acknowledging others when they're in pain, and I feel like not a lot of people do that because they're scared of losing a friendship, or they're scared of like putting somebody down or whatnot. But in reality, that's what we need. We need somebody to hold us accountable sometimes, and have those people who are genuine enough to be able to do that.
Man, I could talk to you all day, dude. And I feel like there's so much too, because there's also like the heartbreak that, so many of us have experienced the past couple of years too. I know that that's something that you experienced. But this really was a really beautiful conversation on like how I mentioned, like just not giving up. And you're someone that, it's very transparent, like believes in themselves. And I just like, I like to do this normally in the beginning of the conversation, but I just want to like express my gratitude to you because like you are such like a real person. And something that like I love about you is like you have been through so much shit, but instead of having all of that stuff that you've been through that could have like brought you down, instead you like transmuted that into making it empower you. And not only that, but you use all of your life experiences to like help others, and you're passionate about like understanding others and making others like feel seen, and you like try to figure out ways to like put that in your work and bring other people up. So it's like, I don't know, you're just like a super beautiful person, and
I love you.
I'm super proud of you.
Thank
Like,
you.
I'm super proud of you, dude. Like, all the success that you're experiencing now and that you will experience in the future, like, you deserve it. And I hope that you really like hold space for yourself to like sit and like enjoy it. And like,
I'm gonna do that for you today. I'm gonna do that for you for sure.
Yeah. So thank you so much, dude.
You're welcome. And thank you so much for having me. I know it had been a while since me and you had like a crazy convo. And you were one of the real ones who believed in me back then, Your writing really helped me and all my shit. So I appreciate you, and it's been a journey since. So, and it's so cool to see you out here now in LA doing your thing. You got podcast shit going. You got popping. I remember you were so nervous, and look at you. You're killing it, dude.
Thanks, dude. That's true. We had connected before I even was living out here.
Yeah,
Man, more to come, dude.
I know. Can't wait.